Hello, my tennis patients. Today we're going to be analyzing the Sinner forehand, and I like to do this once in a while on the channel just to show that although every single player has their own unique styles and attributes, and which can usually boil down to, genetics and other, athletic factors, there is undoubtedly common threads that every good player must do if they wish to hit the ball like a pro. And here we've got an amazing forehand, and let's dive right into it. We're going to have 3 different angles. First, let's start from the front. As we can see, he's going to split step, as his opponent hits the ball or just right after. And we're going to have a no backswing setup, okay? It's not even a turn, it's a coil, okay? Notice the delay, okay? I'm going to take this back, and I just want to point out from the ready position to the coil, look how far he gets his shoulders turned and his hips turned and how little the racket moves. This is the key to the unit turn, okay? Keeping the butt of the racket relatively near your belly button and turning as a unit. So that's phase 1, okay? Not setting the racket ahead of your body, having the delay, and keeping the non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket as well, okay? Now, we're going to see here, I think he's hitting a neutral stance forehand here, and boom. So the ball has clearly bounced, and he's only now letting go his hand off the throat. There's many players that will have their left hand follow the racket back, okay? If it's not holding on to the throat, it's following closely, and this ensures that we're not opening the fridge looking for a late night snack in the backswing. We want to keep the shoulders together in order for them to go back together. You've also got an inverted racket head, but what you're just seeing is the racket face being in front of the hand because, again, we don't want to set it like a flashlight and have the racket behind our hand. We want to get that extra range of motion. That's how you create massive amounts of power and whip on the forehand. So phase 1 is the unit turn and keeping the racket head above the hand, okay, and in front of it. And the strings are slightly closed as well because that's going to help with spin, okay? We will be able to see in other angles, which we're going to look at in a second, but his back elbow is elevated. The back elbow is not tucked in, and if it was, this would most likely be laying open, and that's a common mistake that most people have, is this being laid open in this phase of the swing. Okay, so we want the string slightly closed. Now in phase 2, he's going to sit in the chair and pat the dog, okay? Now, he's got more of an extreme grip, so at this point in the swing, his strings are facing to the ground, maybe even a little bit tilted to the back fence. That's just his style, okay? But all good players have the racket closed at this position, and it's also the tip of the racket is parallel with the lines in the court, which we can't see right now, but it's parallel with the back fence, okay? He's not pointing towards the ball with the butt cap. That's going to happen, but we can't skip steps. So step 2, we've got the racket drop into pat the dog, and the racket head is still in front of the hand. Now notice how the non-hitting hand is also parallel with the lines in the court, and you're going to see that after he starts the swing from the ground up, he's going to use it to uncoil into the shot and pull it into his body. Now, let's watch the uncoiling phase, okay? Boom, from the ground up, he's pulling in, he's uncoiling, boom, okay? He's also got a bent arm at contact point, and that's totally fine, it's totally normal. There's even an argument that it could provide more power. And we see now the butt cap leads through as the last moving part, and the racket is the last part of the kinetic chain, okay? Now from here, we relax the wrist and cover the ball with the windshield wiper, okay? Boom. Now, very textbook stuff. Let's look at it from the back now. Okay, so we're gonna have a better view now of what the elbow does and, the arm in relation to the body, especially in the setup phase. So let's see it, okay? We've got the split step, and let's watch the unit turn, and notice, boom, the space under his armpit, okay? You gotta air the armpit if you want to succeed. And notice how he hasn't pulled the arm back, okay? It's relatively in the same spot that it started in. Let's watch it back, okay? Watch how little the arm actually moves, okay? A lot of people are concerned with swinging from up here, but they're not letting their body do the work. It's a unit turn, so turn as a unit. Now I also need to point something else out, okay? We have a blending of the upper body and the lower body in the setup phase, you know. We have like a pivot, or some players jump into it, especially the pros. They're usually jumping into the turn instead of twisting on the toes. And we also get the upper body to turn past the legs as well, as we'll see. Boom. So right here, okay, he's hitting semi-open stance, but his upper body has to coil more than sideways, okay? And as we can see here, because of his grip, again, the strings are basically pointing to the back fence. Most players at this point would have the strings pointing to the floor, but regardless, this is great. He's going to get a lot of top spin with this kind of grip, so that's the advantage of having it over there. And it's, you know, quite unorthodox, but it works, and I've actually seen people do it too, and they usually hit with a lot of spin. Now, from here, he's going to go inside to outside and start the swing from the ground up. Boom. Okay? The wrist is back in the slot as the last moving part of the kinetic chain, right? Boom. Okay? Contact points, the wrist is still back, and then we windshield wiper. Okay? But, again, notice how he is not tucking in the elbow. The elbow stays away from the body and it goes inside to outside. He also does not wrap the racket behind his back, okay? It doesn't even cross this line, okay? This imaginary line. You gotta swing inside to outside and get radius if you want power on your ground strokes. You wanna get into the habit of swinging like a frisbee around your body and less like what beginner tennis players are taught, you know, the bicycle tire or the Ferris wheel, or, you know, I call it the tennis cancer, the letter C, okay? You really don't want to teach people to hit like that, and it's a #1 red flag. Anyways, great forehand. Let's look at it from the side now. Okay, so this may be the best angle for us to see what's really happening, especially in the setup phase. From the unit turn, okay, we should be able to shoot a basketball in this space. The elbows are up and away from our body, and the butt cap is enough space as well. From the belly button, it's not tucked in. We're not too cool for school, okay? We keep the non-hitting hand on the throat of the racket, and notice we could still basically draw a triangle with the butt cap and the two shoulders, okay? That's how we know we have the unit, okay, or whatever, the Illuminati, okay? Now, let's take it back even more, and only now, once the upper body is turned past the hips and the ball is bounced, we let go of the racket, okay? It's not that he's inverting the racket, it's that he's having a delay, okay? The racket head stays in front of the hand so that when he goes to explode, it can get an extra range of motion. That whip, that's going to be the last part of the kinetic chain. The swing starts from the ground up, pat the dog, closing the strings, so we get top spin, okay, right? We're not swinging open with the frying pan, okay? Swing starts from the ground up. We uncoil by pulling in the non-hitting hand, right? We don't just forget it. Pretend we're surfing. We want to stay on the water. We don't want to fall in the ocean, okay? Now, leading through, the racket is the last part of the kinetic chain, and we've uncoiled, and at contact point, we've straightened out our hips, our toes, and our chest to our target, okay? From here, the windshield wiper, okay? Let's take that back even slower. Boom. The wrist is back at contact, and then we relax the wrist. And if you notice, boom, there's no longer a curl in the wrist. That's very important as well. You don't want to scrape the ball, okay? after you hit the ball, you need to relax the wrist, okay? It changes the component of how much racket head speed you get, the fluidity of your stroke. You really want to make sure you cover the top of the ball by relaxing your wrist. And from here, boom, just over the shoulder. And that's a textbook forehand, okay? That is the center forehand. And, the checkpoints in this video, let's just go over them one more time. We've got a no backswing, okay? We've got the body turning as a unit using the non-hitting hand or having it very close by until the ball bounces, delaying the racket drop, and having the racket head in front of the hand and above it until you're ready to pat the dog and sit in the chair, okay? We get low, and from here, there's no tension in the arm. We maintain this space, and we swing inside to outside in the follow through and have the racket come through as the last part of the kinetic chain once we uncoil to our target with the imaginary laser coming out of the hinges in our body. And then we cover the ball with the windshield wiper. It's very simple, and if you do these things just like him, you don't have to copy everything, but you can see improvements in your own game, even just by implementing one of the things that he does. And this is the Common Threads series of the modern forehand for Sinner. And if you like what you learned here, I recommend taking the next step. If you find yourself, watching a rabbit hole of tennis videos, and I have organized, categorized, and systemized the best tennis misinformation and the best tennis information for your game so that you can know what's right and what's wrong and save time and money that you'll never get back. If you're interested, click the link down in the description. In any event, thanks for tuning in, and use what you've learned to modernize your game, and I'll see you guys in the next therapy session.